All right. Hello, Wife Tribe. Good evening. Happy hump day to everyone. I hope you all are, just ready for the weekend, possibly, or some people are enjoying spring break with their children. And hopefully, you all are getting to enjoy some of the weather. So, we told you all, reminded you all last night during Bible study that we have a new presentation for this month's Wednesday workshop. So, as the new year came in, we have been bringing you all different content throughout each month. And so for this month, we are highlighting a different direction. So we're highlighting an actual Atlanta-based botanical farm, and they are going to be able to share with us about how that all came together. So far this year, we have done relationships and we have done finances, we've done confidence coaching, and so now we are adding different aspects of all of our wellness. And so now we're talking about food and nutrition and the environment. And so hopefully this value will be something that you all will not take lightly. And so I want to start by just kind of giving you all a brief introduction. So essentially how I end up running into these gentlemen, not running into physically, but like online as most of us meet people. Essentially, my mom saw a news like broadcast last year of the guys who are at the farm. And she told me about it. She was like, "Oh yeah, they're off of Collier Road and da 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 da. This is the farm." And I was like, "Really? It's a local farm? Let me look that up." So I looked them up on Instagram, followed them, and I reached out to them because I have a Girl Scout troop and I wanted to see if it was something we could do like a volunteer project. A lot of times it's really hard to find volunteer opportunities for youth because you have to be minimally like 13 years of age or older when you go to like these nonprofits. So I wanted to see, it was outdoors, we're in COVID. And so I reached out, they responded, and we went and volunteered, and the girls had a good time. They learned some skills. I forget what they planted. I want to say the cadets planted like chard and the other ones are working on some tomatoes. So they had fun just learning. Kids don't play in the dirt. And so I think it was a good growing experience for them. And we'll be going back this month. So definitely just excited that we made that partnership. So that's how I was introduced to them. And then when we started the workshops, I said, oh, well, let me reach out to Gratitude because they would be perfect to come on and kind of share. You don't hear, first of all, men who are doing kind of like farming and agriculture. And although you do hear about it in rural areas, as far as like urban areas, you really don't, I at least don't hear about it that much. So I said, oh, this will be a great opportunity for people to learn. So I want to bring on Chris Lemons and Desmond Baskerville, and I will just read a little bit of the bio. Okay, so Gratitude Botanical Farm is a micro farm on the west side of Atlanta. It's comprised of Christopher Lemons and Desmond Baskerville, both Atlanta natives. Not only are they business partners, but also childhood friends. Chris is a certified master gardener from a long lineage of farmers in Georgia, and he's maintained and managed his community garden for years in the historic Peoplestown community in Atlanta. Desmond, also an ancestral farmer, often volunteered there as his love for agriculture grew into a passion. In 2018, they were presented with the opportunity to work their dreams into a reality and have been serving ever since. Gratitude Botanical Farm's mission is to educate, grow, feed, serve, and protect the history of the people of Atlanta through the art of organic urban agriculture. So without further ado, Chris and Desmond, if y'all want to unmute and just introduce yourselves and tell us what y'all got going on at the farm.
Hey everybody, good evening. Thank you all for taking time out to join the live stream today. My name's Chris Lemons, one of the co-owners over here at Gratitude Botanical Farm, and I'll pass it over to Desmond.
Hey, how everyone doing today? Thank you for joining the live. Thank you, Jessica, for thinking of us in this capacity, and we appreciate everybody just taking some time out today to be with us.
Absolutely. So just so everyone is aware, if you do have questions that you want to ask the gentleman, please feel free to drop it in the chat. I have my phone on, so in case you didn't give StreamYard permission to comment, then I can see your questions as well. So Chris and Desmond, can you all kind of, I guess, give us a summary of how it began? I understand that both of you all have history as far as like community gardening and agriculture. So you can explain a little bit of like your family's history, because that sounds like it turned into a passion for you.
Sure. Well, thank you again for having us on here this evening. For us here at the farm, this kind of is an offshoot of, I guess, a home garden. This started back in 2018, but for me, I've been growing food probably for about 10 years at this point, probably a little bit longer than that. But what it started as is just I had a little square box at home in my home garden, and from there, as you know, more opportunities came to expand the home garden. I did, and then probably about it's probably about 7 years ago or so, it was an opportunity to get involved with the community garden at in my neighborhood at Four Corners Park in Peoplestown, and so I was able to get involved that way. Then over time, I worked to get my Master Gardener Extension Volunteer certification through the University of Georgia. That's something I definitely would recommend, and if we can talk more about that later, we definitely will. But back in 2018, the city of Atlanta has a program called Adopt a Lot. And so what they did was they opened up some easements. If you can kind of hear some of the background noise of where we are here, we are right up against I-285 west. And so we're underneath a Georgia Power easement that goes from the Cobb County line all the way down to East Point. And so the city decided they wanted to make these into more productive areas as opposed to, just using them as an easement where they would have to come out and just mow and, just continue to have that maintenance issue. And so they opened up an application process, and Desmond and I entered into that, and I let him kind of tell the rest of it from there.
Okay.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, so heard of,
Uh-oh. I think he's got a connection. There.
so can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
All right, yeah. So we came across the opportunity, and the first thing that came to mind was Chris, being that he's dedicated the time to become master gardener and things like that. And at the time, I was more of a hobbyist. I would volunteer my time over at the People's Town Community Garden with Chris from time to time, and I also maintained a small home garden at my parents' house at the time, and just when the opportunity arose, we definitely figured that we could sit down and take time to plan this out. So we took maybe a couple months just devising a plan. We worked from the business aspect down to just like the goals of having a situation like this, how we wanted to impact the community and things of that nature, and hit the ground running in 2018, and we're just appreciative of the opportunity to continue to grow. Uh, yep, so that's where we are now, and that's how we got here.
Okay. So just as I guess a financial question, when it talks about adopt a lot, so it was free for you all to use the land. They just wanted to make it more useful.
Correct. We have a 5 year lease with the city of Atlanta and Georgia Power to be out on this site and build it out. If you really think about it from a taxpayer citizen standpoint, it's actually a good program because the city is taking land that essentially the city is its own entity, but when we talk about government, it's us. So they're taking
Mhm.
the land that they own on our behalf and putting it to good use in communities as a way to empower and educate, and then also reduce low income, low access areas for people to be able to purchase or grow food. Just kind of what I said about low income, low access. That's an acronym known as LILA. That's the more formalized definition of a food desert. A lot of people have picked up on that vernacular, and that's the one that people use. But Lila is the one that farmers and other people are beginning to use because we want to talk about having more of an impact in areas of need.
Got you. Okay. So let's take that route then, because Desmond also mentioned something about being able to serve the community. So with you all being in the area you are, how are you able to serve the community that is low income and low access?
I think that's the
Uh,
question of the day today. We got that question a little bit earlier when we had an interview. But I'll just kind of give a little short, brief piece of it. It's partly because we're able to partner with different organizations in our neighborhood planning unit, like YG Movement and the actual leadership from our NPU to help market and bring people out to the farm. And then even some neighbors and residents that live right here in Collier and Fairburn Heights, coming out to visit, coming out to volunteer, shopping with us when we have things available for sale. Those are some of the ways that we partner and benefit community. And then, of course, we talk about the greater Atlanta area, working with great churches and organizations like you all as Ebenezer and the Girl Scouts group. So,
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Also, we were also able to partner with the Marta Fresh Market, and so we were able to provide vegetables and herbs and things to them for the majority of the end of the summer and fall last year, and they were sold right here in our community at the Hamilton Homes train station.
Mm.
We touched on it a little earlier, and that's one of the ways that we are able to provide kind of like access to the people that need it that are right here in our community.
Right.
So like that's a partnership that we definitely benefited from as well.
Right, I love that because for those of y'all who are not that familiar with Atlanta or are familiar with Atlanta, rather, the West Side, like to I-20 West, and then the exit to get to their location is, well, that I took was Hamilton E. Holmes exit. And so you pass by that train station as soon as you get out the exit, and it is a very low income, low access area. Not necessarily to the fault of the people, and that's not really the discussion that we're gonna dive in today because we can always better understand why is it certain things in certain communities, but the fact that they were able to one get apply for land that the government was offering as an easement and adopt that land and develop a 5-year lease to build out that land, and now they're able to educate the community when people are able to come out and understand the service, and they're also actually able to sell them the fresh food that people talk about so much. That's so important for nutrition. When we better understand diet and nutrition, we can kind of get rid of a lot of the illnesses and diseases that people are plagued with if they better understood nutrition. So for them to be able to partner with Marta to sell their items right at the transit station that people would be using on a regular basis, that is a phenomenal partnership. Phenomenal. So can you all explain maybe a little bit of I guess, the time it took to maybe develop some of the relationships that you have for community members and political leaders and different things like that? Like, what has that process been like for you? Because it's kind of like it's a business, but it's like wrapped in the community. So how does this work?
so really for us, it's really just about, like you said, leveraging those relationships. For myself personally, I do community service and work outside of just urban agriculture. I've been the president of my neighborhood association in Peoplestown for 5 years now. About to going into the 6th year. And so, out of just maybe knowing people from those city relationships and those NPU relationships, and then just, being able to do what we're doing, right now, articulating our story about how we came to be and how we came to be in existence. I think that that's something that's important. But when you come to talking about working the land and getting it to what you see today, that is, you're being disingenuous as a farmer if you say that you did it by yourself. So, that's a combination of friends coming out to help. That's a combination of family members coming out to help. And then, great volunteers and just, people that want to come support and learn more. So a farm, itself isn't necessarily just about, what we do on a day-to-day basis. We definitely farm organically, and we want to make sure that we produce as much as we can as inputs here at the farm. So we do produce our own compost. When we turn over things for the season, like some of the callers that I might have just pulled this afternoon, that bro Desmond was referencing, taking and putting that in the actual compost bin, and working through things like that. I think that's part of it. Sounds like traffic is picking up a little bit, so let me pass this off to Des.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really kind of just being here and doing the work. Over time, like the same way we met is just like we grow organically, we also grow organically as an
Right.
organization. Like if we're out here and we're doing it, in time, like people will notice what's happening. And then there's a lot of people who just like to be adjacent to things that are happening, and then you do come across like real genuine people like yourself who participate and help us grow that way. So the relationships and things like that we build are just based on the work and the mission as a whole. It is part of our mission to continue to educate, and I think Chris kind of hinted at that before. But as much as we want to sell our wonderful organic veggies, we would much prefer that you all grew your own. You know what I mean? So, like, for us to inspire people to garden and to at least give it a shot, and to just give a consistent visual of what this really looks like and what goes into farming and your food in general, kind of like
Yeah,
adds value to your own personal life.
absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. Before I dive into that a little bit, Chris, you were showing us was that the compost you were showing us? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yep, that was a compost pile that I was walking everyone through, just to kind of show, that composting is a fairly straightforward process, and it's something that can be done at home. I know a lot of people have concerns about smell and rodents and things like that, but with the proper setup, you can compost fairly easily, and it's something that is something that's really needed. I know that, this is something that comes out of church. So when you talk about carbon banking and carbon sequestration, you know, in the Garden of Eden, God said that, we would be the tilth of the earth. And that kind of
Mm,
refers back to the fertility of the actual land and the soil that we eat and live from. Part of it, when we talk about global warming and things like that, carbon banking, which is basically using plants and different flora as a ways and means of keeping, I guess, bad particles out of the atmosphere. And so, it's important for us to educate and teach people about different things like that so that they'll know how to help the earth, because at the end of the day, this is where God gave us to be our home. And, not ironically on me, but, when he originally set us up, he put us in a garden.
right. Perfect
Mhm.
segue. Perfect segue. And I think both of y'all are hitting on is, I guess it kind of goes back to the fundamentals of why you all have the farm and why it's such an interest to you, because when you do better understand like where your food comes from, how a seed, like a literal tiny seed, can grow into and multiply into so much. When you start to really understand that, like, it's amazing, like just looking at God's work just growing right in front of you. And so I do agree that it's important for us. I know that's kind of been like a personal goal of mine. Probably I think I said this year that I was going to at least start, if not a garden, but at least a compost, like start composting, because
Mhm.
first of all it's wasteful not to. And so, being able to do something for ourselves, because if we don't have that immediate contact and we don't understand at least the process that things go through, we don't have the appreciation for it at the end of the day. We just go to the
Right.
store, we pick up what we want, but we don't realize, for one, somebody had to grow that. Somebody had to till that dirt. They had to work to make sure, sometimes they praying over it. They had to deal with the loss from like a storm or something coming through and maybe not being able to yield the crop. Sometimes people have to live, not necessarily a substandard lifestyle, but if you're living in like a more rural area, things are different for farmers. And in our ancestry, people struggle. Like for me, I know personally, like my grandfather was a sharecropper. That's how close
Hmm.
it can be to home. So I need to know and understand these are the processes that these people went through to struggle and grow. But it's important that we know nutritional value of food, where it comes from, and how God has blessed us to be able to take something and multiply into other things.
Right.
You're absolutely right about that.
Yep.
The act of gardening in general is a full on hands on practice in faith. You know what I mean? Like, because of what you said, everything
Yeah.
that plant's going to be is already in that seed. You know what I mean? And that seed came from a plant that was there before it. You know what I mean? So, like, to understand growth, you have to believe in a miracle in a consistently.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's definitely something that is a visual representation of
Of
faith.
faith. Yes, absolutely. I love that. Y'all preaching. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, like you said, have the faith of a mustard seed, and it'll grow. And if you think about it, a lot of allegories and stories that you will come across in the Bible go back to farming. Think about
Yes.
Boaz. That's what he was. He was a planter. Job was a planter in the Bible. And so it's a myriad of stories that people can use to interconnect. If you really want to, just highlight faith, even for us
Yes.
when we talk about just the farm in general and watching it grow. One story that always has hit home with me is the 5 talents of gold. So there's a king. He gave everybody 5 talents of gold, and he said that I'm gonna come back and see what you did with it.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's an allegory to go back to our soul and what we do in our spiritual growth, because when all said and done, we got to give account, and they're gonna come back to see what we did with our life.
Yeah.
And so for us, being able, that's kind of funny now that I say that we got a 5-year lease, so every year you definitely need to be doing something with your talents. But for us, just being able to see this as an opportunity and use it as a blessing for ourselves and for others, I think that that's something that is like really and truly important. So I don't I don't want to ever my volunteers or people that support us to feel taken advantage of. If you come out here and it's like, man, we just pull these weeds, and then 2 weeks later, the farm is not looking maintained or taken care of. You kind of taking advantage of a person's time that way. And so when we operate our business, it's about doing the right things like that too, and honoring the work that the people come out here to volunteer and do, because really there's a lot of people that just come and help from the goodness of their heart.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Can you speak to that a little bit about the food that you all do sell, and maybe how people can get connected with it? Does it still have the partnership where people can get it delivered and stuff?
Definitely, I'll touch part of it, and I'll let Desmond touch part of it. But we do a vegetable share once a week. Basically, what that entails is the vegetables that we have that are like really in season right now, and it's a myriad of things. So one week it might be radishes, turnips, kale, cabbage, and a candle and a bouquet of flowers. Another week, depending on seasonality, it may be tomatoes, watermelons, lettuce, and some sunflowers or something like that. But it's always something that's of value. We do have a web store if anybody is ever interested in just interacting or shopping with us. It's gratitudeatl.com. And you can also interact with us via social media if you want to. And I'll let Desmond tell you about the Better Buggy and the excellent value that they provide for us.
Okay.
Right. So you kind of hit on it earlier, Jessica. Your mom saw us on a news program. That
Mm-hmm.
program was a shared feature with a company, a black-owned company that's called the Better Buggy. They're local as well, and what they do, they're essentially a delivery service for that. They're dedicated directly to black farmers. So it just connects the consumer to the grower, and so they're able to, they put together boxes on their own that they sell with pieces from multiple farms in the area. And they, for a small delivery fee, you get that dropped off right at your door as you would any type of food delivery service. It also, one of the things that we're offering right now, if y'all go to our web store, you'll be able to see it, is a CSA. And just a quick synopsis of a CSA, that stands for Community Sustained Agriculture. And what that essentially means is a lot of the expenses when it comes to farming, you kind of touched on this before, a lot of growers tend to live a humble lifestyle and things of that nature. It's a lot of work and not a whole lot of pay and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. So what happens is we're able to offer a share at the beginning of the season because a lot of our expenses are front loaded. So at the beginning of the year, that's when you buy your seeds. That's when you buy your inputs for your garden and your farm. That's when you repair a lot of your equipment, things of that nature. So a lot of the money that is to be spent is spent in the first few weeks or months of the growing season.
Mm.
So to offset that, you essentially prepay for your vegetables for the entire season. So you would pay an upfront amount, and then weekly you can set up the time to pick it up here. And just as our weekly shares, it's very similar to that, but it's just like a prepaid situation. Or
Okay.
you can pay a weekly fee with the better buggy to have that delivered. So that's what we offer. And like Chris said, it's a seasonal situation. You're able to eat seasonally, eat organic, and for the same price or less that you would pay at the grocery, you can get that straight from the farm. One of the ways Chris put it before, it's a luxury service, if you will. Like you're the people that grow your food. Like that's kind of like next
Mm.
level of being more community oriented, like supporting local business and interacting with those that actually interact with your food. Uh, so instead of like getting something from the grocery store that's been on the truck for 2 weeks coming
Right.
from somewhere else, you literally go to the farm and pick up your veggies that were picked that day,
Mm.
and they were grown well, and who did it.
Wow. That's a different way to put it. I've never thought of that. But that is like a luxury service because we don't know our farmers and we don't know where the food we don't know where the farm comes from. And half the time they put like a label that says, whatever farm, let's say Atlanta Farms. It's not an actual farm, it's just like a warehouse or wherever that they put the food together. They bought it
Right.
from other farmers and were able to put it together. So I love that. Okay, so we're getting luxury food. So I like that. That's a good spin.
Right. And then there's another thing too when you're buying locally and supporting local food systems, you're not supporting the harmful parts of agriculture.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I was looking at just something on my Instagram the other day, and it was just showing a strawberry farm down in Florida. And basically, what you were seeing were a whole bunch of Hispanic workers, like literally running a relay race back and forth because they get paid by the bushels that they pick. So I mean, like
Mm.
you see a grown man with two bushels of strawberries over his head, just running. Drop it off, take off running back down like acres of fields to get the next bundle of strawberries. And so every time that we kind of eat something like that in that system, we eat somebody's pain. I'm a
Mm.
person that thinks holistically, and energy and things like that. All of that is transferred. So when you sit there and those strawberries kind of going bad or not, tasting good, it's probably because of the way that they were grown, the way they were treated, and you're just tasting the end results of that. So
Wow.
sometimes when you all go to the grocery store and you might buy something, and as soon as you take it home, it's starting to mold and all of that. That's because the way our food system works, like you all were just mentioning earlier, it's really an international conglomerate of distributors. And so, somebody like right now, your blueberries are probably coming somewhere between Guatemala and Chile. In the next couple of weeks, that'll move up to Mexico and Texas, and then you'll start to be able to capture them being grown in America just because of the
Mm.
seasonality of that. But think about what it would take for me to move a pack of blueberries from Peru all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, and what your food potentially is exposed to when you do those kinds of things. So you want to shorten the energy that's used to produce your food. So why not get it locally? Yeah, it may cost you $1 or two more, but when you think about your carbon footprint from the oil and the gas that's being used to, bring the food to you, to the actual labor costs, the way the employees are being treated down on the farm, we have a lot of things that we have to change and work on in our food system.
Absolutely. You're right. You hit on a good point because we're not paying the true cost of what it takes to even produce that food anyway. It's a lot of costs that are able to almost be free to those companies just because of the way that the company is set up. They get the tax write-offs. They also get to, use certain resources for free. I'm using that very loosely. They use certain resources for free. They take certain resources and use them. So it's a lot of parts of things, even, as far as clothes being made, like it's a lot of things that we don't pay the true cost for because we don't understand the chains that it goes through. But because it's so, like you said, it's an international conglomerate, so it's really mixed in. And so unless you really understand how that chain works, it's not very linear. Unless you understand how all these pieces fit together, you won't really see how all of these pieces and people move together. And like you said, even those are migrant seasonal workers. Like they move from farm to farm depending on the season, and from state to state depending on what's being grown, to pull our food. And we don't even think about that. We're not even thankful necessarily for there being, people want to talk about immigrants being in America, but we're not considering the fact that they are the ones as to why we have a decent food system to begin with, where there's so much plenty, and they're being paid like $1 an hour, $2 an hour. So, it's definitely a lot.
And then just the way the systems are set up, with the subsidies and things, there are farmers literally getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to not grow things. Like
Yep.
literally, like don't grow, and we'll make sure that you're fine. And
Yes.
so like that being part of it is a problem. As you see what Chris is showing right now too, it just shows like the direct connect from what we do to our community as far as nature goes. He's
Right.
down at the creek that borders our property. And so like the amendments and stuff that we put in are very important because it goes directly into our creek system that is your drinking water. So Chris can touch on that more since he's down there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we talk about, or we are part of a soil and water conservation district too here, in Fulton County and Cobb County and many of your areas in the metro. There are places where they really want to protect our watersheds, because basically for us, this is a combination of our sewer and our fresh water systems that they use to produce our drinking water here in Atlanta and in the metro area. So for Desmond and I, it's really important to farm organically, because I don't want to pour chemicals down into something that's going to kill what little bit of fish we do have in the stream off. And then also it makes it harder on the people that work at the water department to clean and filter out that water, again, that we drink and is used every day to support much of our lives. Where we are, just for a geographic sense, we're right here on Sandy Creek. It's called Sandy Creek because if you come out here, our soil profile is very sandy. On certain days, it almost smells like the beach. This is one of the last tributaries coming out of the city of Atlanta that goes into the Chattahoochee River. This is something that for us as citizens of the city of Atlanta is important, because the city got sued back in the late 90s or early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, basically because of the pollution that was caused on the Chattahoochee River. And so now, because of the consent decree, that's what that's called, the city of Atlanta is mandated to protect urban waters. I mean, you have pieces of property that the city of Atlanta owns out in like Carrollton, Georgia, because of that lawsuit back in the day. And so for us, again, we always want to highlight the beauty of it, first of all, but then just the need for us to stop. Well, not just us, but the population in general, to stop throwing your trash out. You see 285 right there. So anything that people are throwing out, while they're driving, is going to roll and eventually find its way into the stream. And this is the lifeblood of Earth. Without water, we dead in the water, no pun intended.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are some of the things that, for us are important. And then also highlighting just some of the natural things that grow out on the site. So if you all are ever out foraging, or you're just looking for plant stocks, or you might just want to know what something is, right here is an elderberry bush. So those gummies and syrups that everybody is selling, they come from this plant right here. And I just want people to connect more with where their food and things like that come from, because you need to know what this plant looks like, or if you're trying to buy to purchase that to put in your garden, it's important to make sure that you're getting something that was quality grown. And if we ever do truly face tribulation or end times, and folks have to go to the wilderness, these are the things that you'll need to know to take care of yourself.
Right. So do they just is it like a flower it produces on that elderberry bush, or is it just the leaves?
So it works in this part. It's going to produce its flowers, which are also used as medicine. That's elderflower, if you ever seen that maybe being sold. But then from there, the bees and other pollinating insects will come and interact with those flowers and pollinate them. And then they will turn into those little tiny black elderberries that you may have seen sold, or turn into different syrups and things like that. Um, they are in season from about early August going to about middle of October, depending on what the temperature in Georgia looks like at that time. This is also a plant that's native to the United States of America and part of Europe. So, just kind of knowing those little facts and things like that also add value to when you bring people out to the farm.
Right. All right. Okay. Um, I wanted to go back to something Desmond was talking about before, because we were just basically talking about kind of like the you mentioned something that made me think of like people being more educated, right? And we all are at different levels and need to expose ourselves to like really the truth. That's one of the my favorite kind of documentaries to watch, is really about like our food systems and understanding like the body. And so I love to watch like different documentaries. And so I've just learned, and it's really taken into my adult years, I didn't start really learning and being exposed to different things. So is there any type of like education
Can you say that again for us? I think you froze up a little
You
bit.
froze up.
material?
I'm not sure if Chris is hearing you, but I'm not hearing you too well right now. Just your shots kind of frozen.
Yeah, I can hear you okay, but your video is definitely stuck on our behalf. So let us know kind of what you want us or need us to do, and we'll come back to it. Okay. Are you still with us, Jessica? Okay. So guys, when we were talking a little bit about, people being more educated about food and farming, this is something that's just really important, because as COVID came, and even now, you're still seeing food shortages, at certain times of the year. Even right now, you're probably hard pressed to find Tyson chicken in the stores, because they keep having to shut the plants down because of the impacts of COVID on the employees. And so when we talk about, growing your own food and more localized systems, that's why this is important, because it's only going to compound as global warming becomes, or climate change becomes more of a permanent issue for us, as a generation. And then, we just talk about, global illnesses, terrorism, and things like that. We have to really be considerate to make sure that we're able to take care of our nation and our communities. America has almost 350 million people. And so imagine what would happen if, say, for instance, we couldn't get those blueberries across the border from Mexico, or other fruits and things like that we may enjoy. And so what we'll do now is we'll kind of switch gears a little bit until Jessica comes back on, and we'll just give you all a little bit of a tour of the farm and some of the things that we have and some of the different ways that you all can grow your own food. Okay. And right here, guys, what you're looking at, it's one of the ways we celebrate and highlight our heritage here on the farm. You're looking at what's called an African keyhole compost garden. So this is a singular system that you can grow, compost, and propagate things in. So I'll show you this real quick. This is the cylinder that we use in order to add, the things that we're going to compost. So if we're pulling vegetables or something like that, we'll just toss them right in here. This screen and this gate kind of keeps rodents and things out because they can't get into it because of the size of the gate. And then also just because, it's hard to get out. So what happens is as water and airflow comes through, it breaks this compost down directly into the bed, which allows for superior growth. And when I say superior growth, it really is a game changer. I'll show you. This is an elderberry that is being grown in the African keyhole composter. So take a look at how vigorous and everything that this leaf growth is, as opposed to one that I'll show you that's just growing out of the ground. Now, this one is a little bit taller, but when you look at how vigorous the leaves and everything on there are and how green they are, it's definitely not the same as, if you were to do it as an African keyhole compost garden. This one right here is also one that I personally recommend if anybody is just trying to start a garden quickly. This is one that you could be done with this, within a day's time. You simply would rake out a circle of where you want to plant. You're going to lay a row of leaves at the bottom, and then you can purchase some topsoil or you can purchase some compost and fill it in. Make sure that you put your cylinder in the middle that you'll compost from. But like I said, you'll have your plants and stuff going nuts pretty quickly. So give that one a try. And then if you want to see one of our raised beds, of course, these are traditional raised beds that we build from cedar. Part of why you're seeing the PVC pipes on them is because we're just passing by our last frost dates. And so what we would do is just, cover up the rows at night and keep everything warm so it doesn't get killed off. Another thing too that's cool, I know we kind of approaching Q&A time. These are the flowers that the kale plant makes. So one thing that we do to be efficient on our farm is also doing seed saving. So we allow these to be pollinated, and then they'll produce little pods. We'll let those pods dry and then get the seeds out of them. And so, that's a way that we save on expenses, and then that we also just make sure that we have supply that we can share to other people. So that's something that I definitely recommend. If you see your plants are moving into what's called bolts, BOLT, kind of let that process happen. Maybe leave one or two of them and let the seeds develop. That way you can, produce your own seed stocks. And then, if you're lucky, you might get a little bit of variation to where you have your own cultivar that has been produced. And so what I say by that, that means you have a unique plant that you have produced that has its own traits and things like that. You could trademark it, copyright it. I mean, seriously, like it's almost like music. It's people that get sued because you using somebody's seeds from 2 years ago that they had copywritten and you didn't get permission to grow them. So,
wow. Okay, that's cool. I'm back, guys. I so appreciate y'all continuing forward with the presentation. I don't know what was going on with my internet, but Chris, did you show them also the goat area too?
So our goats are gone now.
Oh,
Like
really?
yes, we were actually renting them from a black-owned business called Day Days Goat Rentals out in Decatur.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
And so, you know what he did, he brought them out to us, and I'll show you the results of where we're growing now because of how well they cleared the area out. You know, we didn't even really have to come in and till it, you know, to get it growing. And then because of their urine and, you know, droppings and things like that that we've composted and turned over into that soil, you know, like I said, we got a pretty nice field. And so I'm going to show you guys just kind of a juxtaposition of what it looks like without the goats on it versus what they did to clear this off. So this is the area that was immediately adjacent to where we had the goats. So you kind of see it still got some old growth from winter that's dying or you know, going back into the earth and all of that. But you definitely see that, you know, this isn't anything that is plantable right now. Now take a look at this. This is a result of probably 2 or 3 months of just having the goats out in this same area, just walking around in a pen. And as you all see, they cleared this entire area out to the point to where all we had to do was come in with some forks and do a couple of days worth of work to set these mounds and rows that you're seeing right here. But again, just imagine what that would have looked like on a volunteer day. You know, everybody's out there weeding, or what it would have looked like for a 2-man operation to do this on 1.5 acres and then still have to come out and produce and, you know, keep the rest of the farm tidy. So, you know, those are different efficiencies and things that you can look at as definitely alternatives to chemicals and alternatives to heavy machinery that kind of break down the soil tilth and take a lot of the life out of the soil. So that's what we got from that. And like I said, that was a really great deal. So
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's another good. See, there's so many aspects of it that we don't think through because we're not exposed to it. But you're right. Like the machines, that all of that it would have, the additional harm that those things cause, though they may be something quicker, it's not as natural and organic. So I hope you ladies are seeing like just, you know, a real firsthand of what they offer and what they have. Desmond, were you about to say something? Oh, I can't hear you. Can you hear him, Chris?
might be on mute. You on mute?
I don't think so. No, he's on mute. Now you're off mute. Try again. I don't know. You might if you end up, you might have to go out and come back in. I'm not sure. But no, I can't hear you. Gotta
Well,
love
you gotta love it. There's another thing too that plants do that is really cool. It's called phytoremediation. Phytoremediation is basically a process by in which you can use plants to remove toxic chemicals, different types of waste from soils. So for us living in urban areas, you know, some people living on top of landfills, old landfills from back in the 30s and 40s when, you know, Atlanta was definitely that old country town on the hill. But you know, some of the chemicals and things like that have been left behind, and you know, you can't necessarily start to grow on that until you get some of those chemicals out, like high levels of zinc, mercury, things like that. You definitely want to make sure that you're getting your soil tested before you start your garden, especially if you're doing it in an area like this. You know, like I said, we're right up against 285, right in between the elementary school. And, you know, just from what we've seen in the years of working this soil and pulling things out, we definitely know people used to come here and dump. But when we talk about phytoremediation, some plants that you can use would immediately add beauty to your garden or your space. So when we talk about plants you can use things like cilantro. They help pull heavy metals out of the soil. You can use things like sunflowers to help pull metals and different toxins out of the soil. You can also use mustard greens. Now, when you grow these mustard greens, you cannot eat them. You don't want to compost them either. You typically want to burn them or just put them in the trash. But like I said, the immediate result of pulling those chemicals and metals out of the soil, that is something that is really significant. And as we talk more about a green emerging industry in America, so we talk about green jobs, you know, things like that. That's the type of knowledge and things that you want to put your children in and expose them to. Because right now, yeah, it might seem a little quirky or, you know, like there's some country stuff, because I know we get comments like that all the time. But if I could show you the companies that are making millions of dollars by
it.
simply going and planting plants to clear out brown fields and toxic waste sites. You know,
Mm,
those are things that we miss out in our community on because we are not educating ourselves and engaging in new industry. I think
yeah,
that's something that we definitely need to consider, especially when we consider our historic connection to land, you know, not just here in America, but, you know, Africa and beyond.
right. That you hit on it. Desmond, I didn't want to. I know you was coming back in.
No, can you hear me now?
Yes, you are good.
Okay. No, I was. It was more so about the goats. I was just saying, like, kind of what Chris was explaining. That also can be used as a method of landscaping. You know, they can maintain your yard if you just put some goats in there, fence them in, and you don't have to really like go out there and cut so often and things of that nature. But you got to keep them moving because they'll eat it down to the root. But they will definitely clear out some space for you, and like Chris said, kind of replace some of that man labor that's necessary to maintain a lot of this.
Wow. Yeah. It's so critical, and I hate the fact that we've gotten so far away from some of our roots because we are so urbanized. Like a lot of us grew up in cities, and you don't have any understanding. The only reason why I have a bit of understanding naturally from it is because my family is from the country, so I go back pretty frequently, and I'm just able to see and understand how people live and what is happening, what they have to do to actually farm. But it's funny because even when you go to the country, it's not like everybody's farming. They're so urbanized to where they drive 30 minutes, 45 hour away to whatever factory or warehouse they can get a job at. And, you know, it's almost like there's been a competition to get away from being able to naturally have the land. And I get, you know, wanting to have that good job or the better salary, but it doesn't mean we have to completely give up one side of life for the other. If nothing else, like you all say, have a home garden.
Right. And then Jessica too, like I know that, you know, we kind of touch on larger issues, but that's something when we talk about people being more forward thinking around transportation, you know, that could really change things in Georgia.
Mm,
So I got a chance to go up to Pennsylvania like a year and a half ago to visit one of my friends that was doing I guess doing an internship working with Longwood Gardens. It's one of the, I guess, more famous gardens. Used to be owned by the DuPont family. But I got a chance to go up and visit with her. You can take a train from Philadelphia to Boston. And so why, you know, in Georgia, where we know we have so much open land, don't we have more of a rail system? And that would stop the
yeah.
brain drain from people that come from middle and South Georgia, you know, that leave home to live here in Atlanta and the metro area. Why can't you take a train from Atlanta to Macon in an hour and, you know, you just go back and forth from work every day that way?
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. That's so
And
true.
also just like what you were saying, most like we all have it in us. So once you spend time in the garden, it just starts to make sense over time. Like it'll click, you know. It's matter of like just taking that time and getting your hands into the soil, you know. Just like if you spend the time with it, it's going, you know, to the Bible, like you reap what you sow. Like if you spend time with it, it'll grow, you know.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's so important that we see it happen in that physical and tangible way, that it was meant to be. Like you said, we all have it within us. And so when we put the seed in the right environment that it's meant to grow in, it's going to grow. It's going to naturally produce the same way if you put a person in the environment it's meant to thrive in, we're going to naturally thrive. So that's great. I do want to take a moment just to tell the audience, like if you all have any questions for these gentlemen, please go ahead and drop them so we can have those answered. And I cut out at the time I was asking you for some educational, like, I don't know, documentaries or anything you can provide. But did you all already answer that question?
That's what you were saying. Okay, because it just your
Yeah.
face it just got stuck and then it didn't go through. I would definitely recommend one called Kiss the Soil. That's on Netflix. Kiss the Soil. I think that one is a good one that shows kind of what people go through to really get their farms growing and going. I would also recommend that you take a look at an interview that we did. with the Atlanta program. It's on YouTube. If you just put in Gratitude Botanical Farm, that's where we're talking a little bit more in depth about our backgrounds and some of the things. Then you can also see some of the other farmers here in Atlanta and some of the things that they do. You know, Atlanta is blessed to have some amazing farmers that really, really are game changing things, the way the urban agriculture looks. So, you know, definitely shout out to Urban Sprout Farms, you know, shout out to Farmer Rye, shout out to Outdoor Fresh Farm, you know, our big brother Lilo Jones. You know, we definitely love you. Down South Organic Gardeners, everybody that's doing the eco paradigm, Habishaw, Kari, and his
Vegan
amazing work
Fresh
that he's
Garden.
doing on the west side, you know, grow where you are. Everybody like that, you know, that there's really a myriad of people that are really out here growing. So please don't think that it's just us out here doing this exclusively in a vacuum. There are a lot of people that are out here really doing the work. So, you know, take a chance to support them as well.
And then one
Absolutely.
thing I've learned from Chris is just kick it old school. You know, buy yourself an almanac and look through that. You know, and like literally, it's worked for 100 years. Like it'll keep.
Hmm. Yes, you're right. You were absolutely right about that. That's what they had to use. Shoot, I barely learned how to use an almanac in school. I don't even think they probably teach that anymore. But yes, that's great. Okay, I appreciate that. If you all again have any questions, please drop it so I can be sure to ask them. Um, but you all can go ahead and share. I know you all told them the website, and I put it in the chat. But if you want to share the website,
Sure.
the
The website is www.gratitudeatl.com. We do have a web store. It's also a way for you to sign up with us just so you can get emails and updates. You know, like when we do sales, have volunteer days. We also send out articles and different tips on how to grow food or how to start a garden. So if you all ever have questions like that, like I said, that's the big part of what we do in our business, is making sure and educating people around how to produce and do for self. So don't be shy. You know, if you got a question, throw it in the chat and ask it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, make sure you follow us on our socials. Instagram and Facebook is straightforward Gratitude Botanical Farm, and we share tips and stuff pretty frequently there. And also, there's always an opportunity to volunteer here. We host a volunteer day on the fourth Saturday of every month. That's open to everyone. And similar to how Jessica came across us too, if you have like an organization or something like that, we can make special arrangements and things like that. We're always happy to have people out, and it's a good opportunity to show you all exactly what is going on in the food system here.
Exactly. Okay. Perfect. Yes, I put it in the comments so people can go back and screenshot or jot that down. So I definitely appreciate you all. Is there any, let's say, tips you can, like, most people are very beginning. Like I said, I'm interested in doing, like, I guess compost just to do compost. But for as far as beginning gardening, what would you recommend? Like, let's say top three, because we can't handle too much at one time.
Okay, I'll give my top three. Now let Desmond give his top three. My first one is be resourceful. We live in an urban environment. There are plenty of materials that you can use to start a garden. You know, like you probably got a bamboo field sitting around somewhere, you know, old abandoned house that's been knocked down. Take the bricks from it, stack them up, make your raised bed that way. The next thing that I would say is buy quality plants. You know, sometimes, you know, somebody might have something on sale or, you know, might be giving a discount. It's for a reason. So make sure that what you're planting or what you're working with has full roots on it and that it's healthy and it's developed. The last thing I would say is water and cover after you plant. So a lot of times, you know, we just plant something and leave it on the bare soil. You take things like leaves, you can buy mulch, but you definitely want to make sure that you're covering that ground with something after you water it. That way, you're not losing moisture and nutrients, you know, because in Georgia, it gets hot. And if you think about the evaporation process, once I'm watering something and it starts to get hot during the day, all of my water and everything is just going back up into the sky, and it's taking nutrients and making that soil very dry. So those are my top three. Won't be too long-winded, and I pass it off to Des.
Okay.
Yeah, my top three would be is pretty more philosophical, if you will. Make sure you get started. You know what I mean? It's not if once you get going, like I said, a lot of that intuition kind of takes over. So don't be afraid to start where you are using the resourcefulness that Chris was talking about. Um, Also, like have some grace with yourself. You know, just because it didn't grow doesn't mean you don't have a quote unquote green thumb or anything like that. I think I once read like a good farmer only plants more seeds. You know what I mean? So it's just more so of that, and third is take care of your foundation. Like the soil is the basis of all of this. Um, Going to that documentary Chris was talking about, kiss the earth or kiss the ground.
Mhm.
I can't remember.
Kiss the soil. Uh-huh.
Kiss the soil. Yeah, that's is literally about the importance of the soil. What Chris talked about early with the carbon sequestration, with all of the carbon banking and things of that nature. Like that's all part of that. So you can't grow things on barren land, you know. So to take care of the soil, and then the soil will take care of the rest.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, y'all. He was just preaching. The soil the seed fell on determine its outcome, determine how you was your faith. So that was excellent. I haven't seen any questions come through, so I am hoping that I'm not leaving anyone out if they have particular questions. But I do want to sincerely thank you all for coming on, sharing with us, just educating the community about how to grow a garden and the importance of like the environment. Essentially, I think that's one of the sciences that's really overlooked. They teach it in school, but it's not really taught like it should be. Like we should be like way more into environmental science and understanding all of the mechanics. But of course, you keep us ignorant, and then we just have to do whatever you say do. So please go out and educate yourself, ladies. Watch the documentary on. Somebody said you can't grow things on barren land. She loved that. Yes, you truly are correct. And so watch the documentary. Decide what your first action steps are. I know one of mine last year was to join a Facebook group of Black girls gardening. I forget what the name of the group was, but they basically talk about Black girls who
That's it.
start gardening. And so, do something to start educating and putting it in front of you so you can see it and be a part of that community. Support. Go to their website. You can be a part of their vegetable share. Just like and follow them on Instagram and Facebook, and then just continue to engage. And so we definitely appreciate you, gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. Y'all can hang on for just a second.
Okay. Well, thank y'all, and y'all
Thank
have a
y'all.
good night.